Here's my story. It's still so vivid, like it happened yesterday, not a few months ago. My name is Sarah, and I'm what you'd call a planner. Lists are my best friends. So, when my little sister Chloe announced she was getting married, a destination wedding in Cancun no less, my planning brain went into overdrive. I'd booked my flight months in advance, triple-checked my passport, and even had my outfits mentally paired with accessories. This was Chloe's big day, and I, as maid of honor, was not going to be late. The day of the flight, though, Murphy's Law decided to pay me a visit. My alarm didn't go off, or maybe I slept through it, still debatable. The cat threw up on my packed suitcase, requiring a frantic wipe-down, and the taxi I'd pre-booked was 20 minutes late. By the time I got to the airport, I was a bundle of frazzled nerves, my carefully constructed timeline in tatters. Terminal C, Gate 42, flight to Cancun, boarding in. Oh, dear God, 25 minutes, I muttered, power walking through. The throngs of people, my carry-on banging against my leg. I've always been a bit of a klutz when rushed. Security was a nightmare, of course. The line snaked back and forth, and I was stuck behind a family with approximately 700 tiny liquid bottles they hadn't put in plastic bags. I tapped my foot, checked my watch, and sent a silent prayer to any deity who might be listening. Finally, I was through, shoes back on, laptop repacked, sprinting like I was in the Olympics. Gate 42 was at the very end of the terminal, naturally. I could see the sign in the distance, a beacon of hope. My lungs were burning, my palms were sweaty, but I was going to make it. And then I saw him. He was an older black gentleman, sitting slumped on one of those uncomfortable airport benches, not far from my gate. He wasn't making a sound, but something was wrong. His face was ashen, beaded with sweat, and he was clutching his chest, his knuckles white. He wore simple, slightly worn clothes, a plain t-shirt, comfortable looking, trousers and old sneakers. He looked lost and in pain. People were rushing past him, focused on their own departures, their own destinations. That's the airport for you, isn't it? Everyone in their own little bubble of urgency. My brain screamed, "You're going to miss your flight. Chloe will kill you." My heart, however, did a painful lurch. I glanced at my watch. 10 minutes until they closed the gate. I could make it. I had to make it. But his eyes? They were half closed, but I caught a glimpse, and they were filled with a quiet fear that just stopped me. I took a hesitant step towards him. "Sir?" I asked softly. "Are you all right?" He didn't respond at first, just took a shallow, ragged breath. "Sir?" I tried again, a little louder, crouching down beside him. "Can you hear me? Do you need help?" He slowly turned his head, his eyes focusing on me with difficulty. "Don't know," he whispered, his voice raspy. "Chest hurts." My stomach dropped. Oh, this was bad. This was really bad. My sister's wedding, the bridesmaid dress hanging pristine in my garment bag, the speech I'd practiced 100 times. It all flickered in my mind. Then I looked at his face again. The vulnerability there, the genuine distress. There was no choice. Was there? Not really. Not for me. My mom raised me to help when help is needed. Consequences. Be damned. "Okay," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, though my heart was hammering against my ribs for a whole new reason now. "Okay, just stay calm. I'm going to get help." I looked around wildly. There was an information desk a little way back. No airport staff immediately visible. "Boarding for Flight 412 to Cancun now closing at Gate 42, a voice boomed over the intercom. My flight. My stomach clenched. I made a split-second decision. I gently put my hand on the man's arm. "I'm Sarah. I'm going to stay with you. Don't worry." He gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. I fumbled for my Phone, my fingers shaking, and dialed emergency services. Yes, I'm at the airport Terminal C near Gate 42. There's a gentleman here, he's conscious, but he's complaining of chest pain and looks very unwell. I gave them a quick description. While I was on the phone, I saw the gate agent at Gate 42 looking impatient, making a final call. She was going to close that door. It was like watching a train pull away that you know you're supposed to be on. A wave of panic, then a strange sort of resignation, washed over me. They're sending paramedics, I told the man, ending the call. They'll be here soon. I rummaged in my carry-on and found a small bottle of water I'd bought after security. Can you take a sip of water? I asked, unscrewing the cap. He shook his head slightly. Thank you. Dear, he managed, another ragged breath. I just sat with him, my hand still on his arm, trying to offer some comfort. I talked to him softly, just nonsense really, about the weather, about how busy the airport was, anything to keep his mind, and mine, from the worst-case scenarios. I noticed his watch. It was simple, digital, like mine. His shoes had a bit of mud on the side, like he'd been for a walk somewhere not paved. He looked like someone's grandpa. A wave of protectiveness washed over me. Every now and then, he'd murmur thank you. He didn't say much else. He just seemed to be concentrating on breathing. I noticed he kept his eyes mostly closed, but sometimes I'd feel him glance at me, a quick assessing look, before they'd flutter shut again. I didn't think much of it. He was probably disoriented. It felt like an eternity, but it was probably only 10 or 15 minutes before 2 paramedics arrived with a gurney. They were calm, professional, and efficient. They started asking him questions, name, age, medical history. He answered weakly, sometimes just with a nod or a shake of his head. I relayed what little I knew. Are you family? One of the paramedics asked me. No, I said. No, I just saw him and he looked like he needed help. They got him onto the gurney, hooked him up to a monitor. His color was still bad, but he seemed a tiny bit more relaxed now that help was officially there. As they were about to wheel him away, he turned his head towards me. His eyes were a little clearer now. Thank you, he said, his voice a bit stronger than before. You're a good person. I just smiled, a wobbly, teary kind of smile. I hope you feel better soon, sir. Take care. And then they were gone, wheeling him towards an exit. I stood there for a moment, the adrenaline slowly seeping out of me, leaving me feeling shaky and strangely empty. The area around Gate 42 was now deserted. The sign said, "Flight departed. My flight. My sister's wedding." The full weight of it hit me. I sank onto the bench where the man had been sitting, my head in my hands. Tears started to well up. I'd missed it. I'd missed my flight. Chloe was going to be devastated. I was devastated. After a few minutes of quiet despair, I pulled myself together. Okay, damage control. I went to the airline desk. The agent was polite but firm. Missing a flight because you stopped to help someone? Not exactly a valid reason for a free rebooking in their manual. I'd have to buy a new ticket. And the next. Flight with available seats to Cancun wasn't until tomorrow afternoon, and it was ridiculously expensive. Even if I took it, I'd miss the rehearsal dinner and all the pre-wedding family stuff Chloe had been so excited about. I slumped. I called Chloe. Predictably, she was a whirlwind of emotions. First, worry. Oh my God, are you okay? Then, confusion. But why didn't you just get an airport official? Then a touch of bridezilla panic. But the rehearsal, your speech. My veil is in your carry-on garment bag you were supposed to bring on board. I explained, apologized. Tried to reassure her I'd get there as soon as humanly possible. She eventually calmed down, bless her, and told me the most important thing was that I was okay and that I'd done a kind thing, even if the timing was terrible. I booked the expensive flight for the next day, feeling a pit in my stomach at the cost. I found a cheap, slightly depressing airport hotel for the night, my bridesmaid dress hanging like a colorful ghost in the sterile room. I barely slept, replaying the whole thing in my mind. Did I do the right thing? Yes, absolutely. Did it suck? Monumentally. I wondered about the man. I hoped he was okay. I didn't even know his name. He was just the man I helped. The next day, I finally made it to Cancun, frazzled and exhausted. But there. Chloe hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. The wedding was beautiful, a blur of sunshine, flowers, and happy tears. I gave my speech, a little less polished than I'd planned, but from the heart. I even managed to get Chloe's veil to her in time. Life moved on. The story of the missed flight became a family anecdote. Remember when Sarah saved a man's life and almost missed the wedding? A bit of an exaggeration, but families do that. I never found out what happened to the man I helped. I figured he was a tourist or someone visiting family, and he'd gone on his way. I sent a little prayer his way now and then, hoping he'd recovered fully. The cost of the new flight stung for a while, but the memory of his grateful eyes, even in his pain, made it feel worth it. About 2 months later, I was back in my routine. Work, coffee, trying to keep my cat from destroying my apartment. I got a call from an unknown number. Usually I let those go to voicemail, assuming it's a scam. But for some reason, I answered. "Hello, is this Ms. Sarah Miller?" A polite, professional female voice asked. "Yes, speaking," I replied, a little wary. "Ms. Miller, my name is Eleanor Vance. I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Elijah Johnson. He asked me to get in touch." "With you? Elijah Johnson?" The name meant nothing to me. "I'm sorry. I don't think I know a Mr. Johnson." "You assisted him at the airport a couple of months ago," she explained. "He was taken ill, and you stayed with him until paramedics arrived." My breath caught. The man from the airport. Oh my goodness, yes. Is he all right? How is he?" "He's made a full recovery, thank you for asking," Eleanor said, warmly. "He's very grateful for your assistance, Ms. Miller. He's been trying to locate you, and it took us a little while to confirm your details through the airport authorities from the emergency call records." "Oh, wow. Well, please tell him I'm so glad he's okay. I was worried," I said, genuinely relieved. "He would like to thank you in person if you'd be amenable," Eleanor continued. "He's wondering if you might be free for lunch. Next Tuesday? He'd be happy to send a car for you." "Lunch? With him?" It seemed a bit formal. "Oh, that's really not necessary," I stammered. "I was just glad I could help. Anyone would have done the same." "Mr. Johnson is rather insistent," she said, a hint of gentle amusement in her voice. "He feels he owes you a great deal. And he'd very much like to hear about the wedding you almost missed." I blushed, even though she couldn't see me. How did he know about that? Oh, right. I was probably babbling about it at the airport. Or maybe my very loud, stressed phone call to Chloe was overheard. "Well, if he's sure," I said, still a bit hesitant. "Tuesday would be fine." We arranged the details. A car would pick me up from my office. It all felt a bit surreal. The following Tuesday, a sleek black car, the kind I'd only ever seen in movies, pulled up outside my workplace. The driver, in a smart suit, opened the door for me. I felt incredibly out of place in my work dress, which suddenly seemed very ordinary. We drove to a part of the city I rarely visited, full of imposing, elegant buildings. The car pulled up outside a very discreet, very expensive-looking restaurant. My stomach did a little flip-flop. This was way fancier than I was used to. Eleanor Vance, a poised woman in her 50s with kind eyes, met me at the entrance. "Ms. Miller, so good to meet you in person. Mr. Johnson is waiting inside." She led me through the hushed, beautifully decorated restaurant to a quiet corner table. And there he was, It was him, the man from the airport, but different. He was wearing an impeccably tailored suit. His gray hair was neatly styled and his eyes, clear and intelligent, sparkled with warmth. He looked healthy, vital, and incredibly distinguished. The slightly worn clothes and look of distress were gone, replaced by an aura of quiet authority. He rose as I approached, a genuine smile on his face. "Ms. Miller, Sarah, please sit down," he said, his voice rich and steady now, not the raspy whisper I remembered. He gestured to the chair opposite him. "Mr. Johnson," I said, still a bit dazed. "You look so much better. I'm so glad." "Thanks to you, my dear," he said, his eyes holding mine. "Entirely thanks to you." We sat, and a waiter appeared as if by magic to pour us water. "I apologize for the somewhat roundabout way of contacting you," Mr. Johnson began, "and for my rather disheveled appearance when we first met. It's not how I usually present myself." I smiled. "Don't worry about it at all. The important thing is that you're well." "I am," he confirmed. "The doctors said it was a severe angina attack, exacerbated by stress and fatigue. They said if help hadn't arrived when it did, it could have been much worse. You didn't just stay with me, Sarah. You saved my life." I felt a blush creep up my neck. "I just did what anyone would do." He chuckled softly. "Ah, but that's where you're wrong, my dear. You'd be surprised how many people would have walked right on by, especially if they were about to miss an important flight to their sister's wedding." My eyes widened. "You heard all that?" "I was more lucid than I probably appeared," he admitted, a twinkle in his eye. "I was trying to conserve my energy, but I heard you on the phone with your sister. I heard the panic in your voice, and I saw you make the decision to stay with a stranger, knowing full well what it would cost you. That, Sarah, is not something anyone would do. That's character. That's compassion." We talked for a long time over lunch. He told me a little about himself. He was a businessman, recently retired, though he still kept his hand in a few ventures. He didn't elaborate much on the business, just spoke about his family, his grandkids. He was surprisingly down-to-earth and easy to talk to. He asked about my sister's wedding, and I found myself telling him all about Chloe, the near disaster, of the veil, and how beautiful it all turned out. He listened intently, nodding, asking questions, making me feel like my little family drama was the most interesting thing in the world. He also explained why he was dressed so simply that day at the airport. I'd been visiting an old friend, someone I grew up with who isn't in the same financial position as I am now. I always try to be low-key when I see him, less fuss, and I was actually testing out a new incognito travel service my son's company is developing, designed for people who want to travel without drawing attention. The irony is, I nearly died testing it. He gave a wry smile. I was still just processing it all. This kind, grandfatherly man, who looked so vulnerable on that airport bench, was clearly someone of considerable means, but he hadn't acted like it. He'd just been a person in need. As lunch was winding down, he leaned forward slightly. "Sarah," he said, his voice serious now, "I haven't just brought you here to say thank you with a meal, though I've enjoyed this immensely." He slid a thick envelope across the table. "This is, in small part, to cover the cost of that new flight you had to buy, and any other expenses you incurred because of me. Please, don't argue." I opened my mouth to protest, but he held up a hand. "And this," he said, placing a smaller, but still substantial-looking envelope next to it, "is something more. Consider it a token of my immense gratitude. A gift. For your kindness. For your selflessness." I stared at the envelopes, my heart starting to pound again. "Mr. Johnson, I can't accept this. It's too much. I didn't help you for any kind of reward." "I know you didn't," he said gently. That's precisely why you deserve it. You see, Sarah, I've reached a point in my life where I have more than I could ever need. And one of the few true pleasures left is being able to recognize and reward genuine goodness when I see it. You showed me such profound, unhesitating kindness at considerable personal cost, without a thought for who I might be or what I might have. You just saw a fellow human being in distress. He paused, his gaze direct and sincere. I was watching you, you know. Even when my eyes were closed, I saw the conflict on your face as you heard your flight being called, the final boarding. I saw the exact moment you made your choice, and it moved me deeply. In that moment, you weren't just helping an old man. You were affirming something about humanity that I, frankly, had begun to doubt. Tears welled in my eyes. I didn't know what to say. Please, he urged. Take it. Use it for something wonderful. A down payment on a house, travel, invest. Donate some to a cause you care about, whatever brings you joy or security. Think of it as the universe balancing the scales a little. You gave something precious, your time, your peace of mind. You risked missing something irreplaceable. Let me give something back. I slowly reached for the envelopes. My fingers trembled as I picked them up. They felt heavy. The first one, he said, pointing to the larger one, will more than cover your flight and hotel. I also took the liberty of finding out what your sister's wedding cost for travel and accommodation for you. That's covered too, I gasped. How? He smiled. I have resourceful people. Eleanor is very good at her job. And your sister was surprisingly forthcoming when Eleanor called her, under the guise of an airport survey about passenger assistance experiences, to confirm a few details. My sister, the chatterbox. I shook my head, a laugh escaping me. And the second envelope? He continued, his voice softer. That's for you, Sarah. For your future. It's a significant sum. Enough to make a real difference, I hope. No strings attached. Just a thank you. From the bottom of an old man's mended heart. I finally looked inside the first envelope. There were crisp banknotes, far more than my flight and hotel had cost. Then, tentatively, I opened the second. I couldn't quite comprehend the number on the check inside. It was life-changing. It was the kind of money I'd only ever dreamed of seeing, the kind that could erase student loans, secure a future, allow for dreams I'd long since filed away as impossible. I looked up at him, speechless, tears now openly streaming down my face. Mr. Johnson, Elijah, I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept it, he said, his eyes kind. Say it will allow you to continue being the wonderful, compassionate person you are, perhaps with a few less financial worries. That would make me very happy. I nodded, unable to form words, just clutching those envelopes to my chest. He reached across the table and gently patted my hand. There's one more thing. My family and I have a small charitable foundation. We support causes related to education and healthcare access. I was wondering if you have a particular charity you're passionate about. We'd like to make a significant donation in your name. My mind immediately went to a small local animal shelter I volunteered at whenever I had free time. They were always struggling for funds. There's an animal shelter, I managed to say. Paws and Hearts. They do amazing work. Paws and Hearts it is, he said with a decisive nod. Eleanor will get the details from you. We finished our coffee, and I felt like I was floating. The world looked different, brighter. It wasn't just about the money, though that was overwhelming. It was about the validation. The sheer, unexpected kindness returned, amplified. As the car took me home, I kept looking at the envelopes. It felt like a dream. But it was real. Mr. Johnson, Elijah, hadn't just been watching in silence that day at the airport because he was ill. He'd been observing. He'd seen something in me, something I just thought of as well, just being me. The next few weeks were a blur. I paid off my student loans. I put a hefty sum into savings. I made a donation to Paws and Hearts myself, on top of what Elijah's foundation was doing. I even booked a surprise trip for my parents, something they'd always wanted to do. But the biggest change wasn't financial. It was internal. Knowing that a simple act of kindness, something that felt instinctive and necessary, could ripple outwards in such an extraordinary way, it settled something deep inside me. It reaffirmed my belief in just doing the right thing. Not for reward, not for recognition, but because it's who we're supposed to be. I still see Elijah sometimes. We have lunch every few months. He's become a sort of mentor, a grandfatherly figure. He never talks about his wealth in a showy way. He's more interested in hearing about my life, my cat, my latest attempts at gardening. He loves to hear about Paws and Hearts, and his foundation has become one of their biggest benefactors. Sometimes, when I'm at the airport now, I travel a bit more thanks to him. I find myself scanning the faces in the crowd. Not looking for anyone in particular, just more aware, more open. And I always make sure I have plenty of time before my flight. Because you never know. You never know when a simple moment, a choice to stop, a decision to help, might change not just one life, but two. Mine, certainly, was changed forever. And I like to think that in some small way, by showing him that unhesitating kindness still exists, I helped mend more than just Elijah Johnson's heart that day. I think I helped restore a little piece of his faith in the world, too. And that, more than any check, is the most precious gift of all.